I'm now going to call the Monday, October 14th, 2024 regular meeting to order of the Jersey Shore Area School District Board of School Directors. Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen. Mr. Brungard. Mrs. Calhoun.
Here.
Miss Edwards.
Here.
Mr. McDonald. Mrs. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler.
Here.
7 members present, 2 absent.
Thank you. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ulmer?
I'm going to recognize Mr. Jean.
Good evening, Board. It gives me great pleasure to introduce 2 students from Mavis Elementary School. Can I have Ruby Rodarmel and Easton Hiley come up and join us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He's darling. That's okay.
Next, we're going to move on to communications. Dr. Ulmer?
Nothing under communications this evening.
Okay, thank you. Under President's Report, we had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss legal and personnel. Board representative and committee reports.
I will speak for Mr. Brungard, who isn't able to be here tonight, but he communicated with me that the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting on Monday will be canceled.
Okay, thank you. Student representative report, Kate. Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report, Dr. Ulmer.
Under my report for this evening, there are multiple policies on for presentation. These are not on to be voted on tonight. All of these are a result of PSBA legal edits. They are redlined so you can see what has changed. If you have any feedback or questions, let me know prior to the next meeting and we'll answer them before we vote on them the first time. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right. There's no courtesy of the floor for the first public comment. No one signed up this evening, so we will move on to personnel. Items to approve, A through T. May I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Second.
Are there any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to curriculum and instruction. Items to approve, letter A. May I have a motion, please?
Can I just ask a question about, what is it?
It is
What
a
is,
student club trip, and because it is out of state, it has to come to the board for approval. It is not on a school day. It is something that takes place outside of school time because it's a club, but because it's a school club and it's an out-of-state trip, you are the only body that has approval authority
It's been ongoing for years.
for years. They go to Inner Harbor
To the
Museum,
bowl, to the aquarium.
aquarium.
Oh, okay.
There's a bunch of stuff there.
okay, thanks.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. There is nothing under buildings and grounds. Moving on to finance, before I ask for a motion, just wanted to make an adjustment to letter D and E. We are striking out the word budget. This is just a request for a transfer, not a budget transfer. So may I have a motion, please, for items A through E?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to miscellaneous. Again, I'd like to make a correction under letter D. Instead of it for benefit consulting services, it is for ACA reporting services. So may I have a motion, please, for items A through E?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Okay. Before we move into old business, just wanted to congratulate Mr. Enders on being appointed. You're welcome. Okay, we will move on to old business. Is there anything the board would like to discuss?
The building and grounds meeting, is that being rescheduled?
I'm going to talk to Mr. Brungard after we meet with the committee internally.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to courtesy of the floor. You could please just state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Matt Craw, Anthony Township. I'd like to bring up something that I found on digging and doing a little research. I'll send this to the board as well, but if we could pay attention to a board meeting that occurred on 8/2/2023, around minute 26 to 23. Please, board in public, watch it. Damien of Site Logic speaks about making sure that the 20 million that was being discussed at that meeting that the acceptable isn't something to worry about for 20 years. So in your categories, when he was talking about it, he stated about acceptable isn't something to worry about 20 years. The caution isn't really something to do with the 10 million. He went on to speak about a car analogy. If a car is at 275K and you want it to go past 300K, you'll have to maintain or be prepared to buy a new car. But he stated nothing in the caution area comes to that car analogy, meaning nothing in the caution area is that car analogy of we must either put more money into it at this point or prepare to buy new. He also went on to state that if you're looking out for the middle school, it is really the alarm and the alert over the next 5 years you need to pay attention to. He stated you are currently doing that with the first two items. So I guess my question becomes, why the difference in presentation or understanding to the public? Now it just kind of seems like a flip-flop. Again, please, board, look into that and see. Maybe I'm missing something, I don't know, because the lack of information being presented, I could be missing something. But it'd be much appreciated if you did look into that and see where it was. Again, I'm here just to speak on behalf of the school closure as well. I think more information could be shared with us to help us have a better understanding of where we're going and how we're getting there. Some simple things of what are you planning to do with the building if you do close? Again, I don't want it to close. What are we doing with the building? What are you doing with the sewer plant that's down along the park edge? How are you going to separate that out? Is there interest in selling it? Are we keeping it? Because there is a cost to maintain it if we do keep it. You'll have to heat it, you still have to take care of it, because if not, it deteriorates rapidly. So I feel like there's been, again, like a rush to vote without all the information being presented to the public. Maybe you guys have seen it, but we haven't. So that's the way the community is viewing it. And sometimes perception is reality with those things. So please ask more questions. I was very appreciative to the board members who are asking questions. It's not an attack on anyone to ask questions, and those questions should be fielded. They're your board members. They should be fielded by someone at some point. So when the board is asking questions, I ask that they're kindly fielded and represented back, and they get some kind of response. I think that would help in understanding too. Thank you for all you do and volunteering your time, and thank you for your time tonight. Have a great night.
Thank you. And just so you know, Mr. Kroll, any board member that does or has had in the past an actual question, Dr. Almer has made sure to answer that. So,
I appreciate it, but it's not seen on public either. So you can say it is, but sometimes it helps to see it in public too.
Hello, I had emailed everybody, I don't know if you can reference that now or later, but that would be good. Justin Wall, Anthony Township, piggybacking on the idea from Site Logic that our district is in a good position to maintain as we go. I wanted to share a little bit about where I pictured our district was heading with many or a few board members who had left the district, which was the idea that we want to keep our schools open and that they want to get debt-free, right? And that really serves two large groups, our parents, our students, but let's not forget the taxpayers who want a savings. What I've sent you is really a breakdown of what that would look like. The positives here are is that you can invest in a pay-as-you-go plan, $60 million into our facilities rather than $36 million, which is what Jamie Doyle presented. You can do this without increasing your debt service. All you have to do to make this happen is not borrow and close schools. You wait 1 year and you allocate $5 million for the most urgent HVAC needs. You only draw 5% of that the first year. So you are then able to address anything that comes up. Year 3, you got to draw 85%. So you're only actually putting yourself out 1 or 2 years. You can address then with $6 million initially. In those couple years, all the HVAC needs you need. But what that looks like then is your debt service is only a couple $100,000 throughout. So your plan as proposed, which is to close schools to save $860,000 and then borrow $36 million, would result in $28 million in interest being paid to banks. That is taxpayer money. This is an instance where you can have your cake and eat it too. You can keep your schools open, and you can also meet the needs of the district better by doing a pay-as-you-go program. And I say better because your $36 million will lock you in for 3 decades. That does not meet the needs of the high school, the admin, the athletics. And so you'll be forced with cuts and decisions about what you're not going to do. With the pay-as-you-go program, with that $60 million, which will now be put into our district rather than given to banks, you can meet the needs of the high school, of the athletics, of the admin, within the same time period as Jamie Doyle's presentation through 2055. This is $22 million extra put into our schools. And that is if you borrow initially the $5 million for your HVACs up front. Keep in mind, your $28 million of interest for a $36 million loan is averaged out to $975,000 in that 3-decade period. That is more than the savings proposed by closing a school, which is $860. You're at a loss in the beginning, minus whatever you're going to lose from charters, because it's going to be something. So give this some thought. You can serve your students, your families, and your taxpayers all at the same time by making a decision to pay as you go. And sometimes it's a tough decision to go a route maybe you didn't think at first, but it really does serve all parties better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Kayla Gephardt, Piatt Township. I just wanted to discuss classroom usage in Jersey Shore Elementary. Should the board decide to close Southeysburg, which obviously I would not be in favor of, but there are 37 classrooms, I think we were told, for use at Jersey Shore Elementary. Currently, between the two schools, there are 35 teaching classrooms needed. So as current status, that's how many grade level classes we have. I understand that the plan is to hope that teachers retire and leave and that we just won't replace them. But I would be interested if you've thought about what happens when those teachers leave. We have the room then to fit everyone in Jersey Shore Elementary, but are we using it best for educational purposes? Just because we can fit all the kids, does that make it the smartest way to put them together? Are we benefiting them by putting them all in one school? So for instance, we can fit them, but then we also have title teachers. We have speech learning support. They have to have a place to go as well. And then if they only have limited rooms to fit in, we have students that usually get pulled out for those types of interventions. So instead of a student being able to be pulled out with his group or her group, they're instead in the classroom with their small group, then with another set of students who are doing independent work, and then another small group that the teacher is teaching. So think about a student who has a special learning need, right, who now has to relearn what they were supposed to learn in regular classroom education. They weren't able to learn it in a large group, so we've given them a small group, and we've said, here's this great resource we have to help you. But you have to sit in the classroom with other kids milling around, and then another lesson being taught to another set of kids. That, to me, doesn't benefit those students. It doesn't benefit the ones that need the help. It doesn't benefit the ones who are sitting doing their independent work, and it doesn't benefit the ones who are with a teacher in a group. I think that's important to think about when we're thinking about closing a school, when our current schools do it very well. They have a great system for moving kids, getting them the support they need. I would also reference that it seems unreasonable to me that our best scenario is to close a school, and as you just heard, that it would cost us then $28 million in interest to really not benefit our students at all, in my opinion. And we're hoping that teachers retire or leave, and to me, it doesn't make sense that our educational system is hoping that we don't have as many teachers. Teachers are the way these kids leave school knowing what they're supposed to know. If you don't have all the teachers, I don't understand how they're supposed to get the education they deserve. So please think about that. And I would urge you to go visit other schools. I know that there was a tour of JSE, I get that, but like, Go to Saudysburg when it's up and running. Go to Avis when it's up and running. Go see how they work. Watch how the system is currently working and see that change isn't going to make it better for these students. And I actually think it would be detrimental. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. And just so you know, several board members have visited these, Kayla, several board members have visited these schools with Dr. Almer while they were operating. So,
Everybody does.
so thank you.
Donna Berry, Mifflin Township. A couple of things were ones that I brought up before, and I have some other new ones. The first one is the county and township, they don't raise their taxes every year. So apparently they're financially responsible with taxpayers' money. So what's the problem with Jersey Shore Area School District? Why can't you be more responsible with our money? Second thing was I had asked about what percentage of teachers and what percentage of administration live in the Jersey Shore Area School District. I never heard anything back or any information. I did some Googling and found out, like most superintendents that I know, ours also doesn't live in the school district.
Ma'am,
So,
I'd ask you to please not personally attack Dr. Ulmer because this board hired him knowing where he lived and where his credentials are. Where he lives does not diminish his ability to run this district.
but he doesn't
I'd
have
advise you to
anything
stay away
vested.
from. If you want to keep speaking,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to please stop.
But he doesn't have, I'm just going to say, isn't vested in as much as other
Ma'am.
people would be.
If you want to
Third,
keep speaking,
giving-
don't go there again, please.
I was always taught that you give respect to receive respect. I didn't get the last couple of meetings, but I watched, and board members who are elected by the taxpayers taxpayers want people to, the board members to, ask questions in regard to things that we want. And I was very disappointed when I heard somebody state, it wasn't the board members being disrespectful. To me, it was a person who said that 30 minutes was wasted. And I think that person was more disrespectful. Number 4, it was also stated in the same meeting that, I won't say the person, was highly intelligent. In respect to what? Education, engineering, what? Because if you want to consider education, I know someone who took absolutely no academic classes when they were in high school, waited until they were in their mid-30s to finally decide to go to college. And in 4 years, they got 2 associates and a bachelor's degree from Penn State University main campus, and the bachelor's was in education. So it's apparently not that horribly hard to get an education in education. And then that person also went on to get their master's degree. Again, no disrespect, but this is just a saying that a friend of mine has, so I'm just going to say what he says. His comment is, never confuse education with intelligence. You can have a doctorate degree and still be an idiot. And then lastly, if the SE school is to be closed, it's in my opinion that it's to be sold, outright sold, so that additional tax revenue can come back into the school district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Donna. I think Dr. Lily's coming up. Oh.
Merle Schweitzer, Mifflin Township, School District, Region 1. I might need a little extra time, so it depends.
Well, you'll have 3 minutes, Mr. Schweitzer.
No, okay. I'll talk a little bit about consolidation. What's going on in this area. The idea was to consolidate our school district, the school operations into one location within the district, and they picked Jersey Shore. Well, when they did that, they built a high school, and they're accommodating about 700 children at this time. We also built a middle school for another 400 children, so it's 1,100 seats out of 2,000. But then, what about the elementary? I discovered we only had one school for the elementary with 970 children. Of course, there's not enough room to put 970 children in the current elementary building. So what did the administration do? I'm quite impressed at what they did. Right now, the situation is that JSASD, we have approximately 500 children, K to 5. In Avis, 250. And Salisbury, like 215. So it comes out to about 970 students. The class size average, I think, is 18, which is what the state average is, and also just below the national average. So I couldn't think of a better situation in solving the consolidation problem. I think the consolidation that started back like 2000, whatever, 2008, the consolidation plan to move some of the elementary children closer to Jersey Shore. That plan has been completed with the current distribution of children in the 3 elementary schools. And I want to commend the administration on figuring this out. The next subject is pupil personnel costs. We hear that time to time, pupil personnel costs. And the latest number I heard was $23,000 a year per student for the state. And then I asked, I wonder what the cost is for Jersey Shore. Well, if my numbers are right, the cost for Jersey Shore is less than the state average, like $22,000 a student. And to me, that's good news. So right away, I thought, well, maybe we're not overspending in wages and benefits. But maybe we are, but maybe we're not. And that is a good thing, because the understanding is that we're overspending in wages and benefit in this district, where 70% of the budget goes to wages and benefits, but there's an understanding there that we have 270 full-time employees and 100 part-time employees. So we expect the bulk of our expenses to go to labor and benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. Your time is up.
I can't talk anymore.
No, I'm sorry. At the next meeting, though, you'll have another 3 minutes.
I could be an exception, and you could grant me more time, of course, with the policy.
I'm not willing to grant you more time this evening, but thank you. There's other people behind you that would like to speak.
Dr. Lily Langlois, Cummings Township. All of you here are volunteering your time for the best interests of our children, of course. That's why you would spend all these countless hours here. So I figured you'd be interested in some research and some reports, because there's not a ton of research on consolidation of schools and how the short-term and long-term impacts our children. So this article was published in Education Week in June of 2024. It's called "The Harm of School Closures Can Last a Lifetime," new research shows. I'm going to quote it for you. And if you'd like, I'd deliver it to you, but I can't approach the bench, I see. Quote, "Students who attend a school that closes during their K through 12 career have lower test scores along with worse attendance and behavior in the short term. In the long term, they're less likely than their peers to complete college and have a job, and their earnings tend to be lower." Each year, hundreds of schools across the country close because of low enrollment, budget shortfalls, and poor performance. End quote. Our situation, we have really good performance at Salatiesburg. You all know that. We're rated 8 out of 10 in the state. We don't have low enrollment, and apparently there's budgetary issues, but then the last meeting, they said 10 grand could be issued. No trouble. I'm going to continue. Decades of research has shown that those closures have short-term negative impacts on students' academic achievement, with researchers documenting drops in test scores, attendance, and high school graduation rates that usually recover within 3 years. But a new working paper shows that the impact of school closures often extends well past graduation. As quoted the PhD candidate in economics at the University of Houston, the researcher behind this study. So this study was published at Annenberg Institute at Brown University, for those of you familiar with that Ivy League school. The title of that article published is called The Long Shadow of School Closures, Impacts on Students' Educational and Labor Market Outcomes. This gentleman and his research team took Texas administrative data from 1998 till 2015. That's almost 2 decades of research. They compiled the numbers of 470 school closures to find the short-term and long-term losses. So I hope you are considering those as you consider our children's fate with Salatiesburg. Quoting from the abstract, they say, the findings indicate that experiencing school closures results in disruptions in both test scores and behavior. While the drop in test scores is recovered within 3 years, behavioral issues persist. This study further finds decreases in post-secondary education attainment, employment, and earnings at age 25 through 27, end quote. He continues to say, these impacts are particularly pronounced among students from economically disadvantaged families. Unfortunately, in Jersey Shore District, that is the case. The median average household is $62,000. In contrast to some of our administrators here that have double that salary per individual, it's a huge contrast. I hope you consider that when you look at Salatiesburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lilly.
Becky Fraser, Anthony Township. Good evening. I hope that you've been listening tonight, as there's been several citizens that have brought up valid points. And I'd just like to reiterate, along with what they've said, if you want to run the district as a business, you have to keep your customers happy or they'll go elsewhere. The students and parents of this district are your consumers, and it's very evident to me that closing any of our existing elementary schools would not benefit the students of the district. We've been told that with closing Salatiesburg, you'll save $860,000. Have you considered how many students will be lost to charter, cyber, homeschool, and private if you consolidate schools? Losing 58 students without IEPs or disabilities will take any savings you expected. This is less than 10 students per grade level, and not unreasonable to believe reality will be much higher. That figure will also be a lot less students if you take into consideration how much money goes towards a student that has a disability or an IEP. So losing a student that has one of those, that number is even lower. This will ultimately have a major impact to your bottom line. Please continue to ask questions before you make any decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. I'm going to now close courtesy of the floor. Meeting's adjourned.